Hey, my name is Steve Creech. I am the safety manager. I'm the training manager. I'm currently also in the interim safety director role. And what we wanted to do, we want to share the safety priorities for the year of 2022. And we want to do this so that we can have everybody in the organization in the same boat, paddling at the same time, paddling in the same direction to get us where we want to go. And that's ultimately to be able to have safe courses so that our students can have the amazing transformative experiences they can have on course, that we can change lives through challenge and discovery. So here we go. So here is a list of the different things that we have as safety priorities for this year. We're going to dive into this in more depth in the following slides, but basically the way that we came up with these is we looked at the safety and incident data from 2021. We talked to LCs, we talked to instructors, we talked to CDs, the leadership teams at each program. And these are the safety priorities that we came up with for the entire school. There can also be priorities that focus specifically at a program level. So you can also look for those and find ways to contribute in those ways. But here we go we'll dive into each one of these individually. So our first one, and these aren't in any order of priority, but this is definitely an important one. And let's be honest, 2020 and 2021, they've been huge challenges. And just like on course, it's the biggest challenges that you face that teach the biggest lessons. It's how you choose to respond that makes or breaks your course. One of the loudest and the clearest lessons we've learned is that the COBS system needs to be more resilient. We saw that when there were holes in the instructor pool this past year. They got filled by logistics coordinators. They got filled by student services course advisors. They got filled by CDs. They got filled by members of the ops team, myself included. We went into the field. The end outcome, it worked, despite it being a flawed process. Operating with flawed processes, it can't last very long. That's why we're prioritizing building this organizational capacity. We want to have a deeper pool of new hires. We know that we already are investing in wage increases for all field staff. We know we need to build our depth of cultural competency and comfort handling JEDI issues and conversations on course. We also want to identify development opportunities for all staff, including leadership teams, including field staff, that the COBS Professional Development Fund can support. And speaking of, you can follow that QR code in the corner there to get you to the Professional Development Fund form. And that will help you gain more resiliency, which will also help COBS gain more resiliency. Thanks. So our second priority is to continue focusing on workplace health and safety culture. This is something we made a lot of strides on. Vic, Vahe, Sean, everyone involved with facilities in the past year. They've made a ton of progress here, but culture is an ongoing thing, and we want to make sure that we can really cement this culture. We know that an injury is an injury no matter where it happens, and we need to work on creating safety wherever we work and with everyone we work with. We want to make sure that we're putting and supporting resources and attention to ensure that we're training, practicing, thinking, discussing safety in the front country just as much as we all do in the back country. So another of our safety priorities, in the past year, there was a mental health task force that was formed across the OBUSA system. They're looking at mental health, and one way that they have started looking at that is at the start of the process, so the screening process. The current system that we have been using for a long time and hadn't been reviewed in a long time also is one that was diagnosis-based. And we're trying to shift that from diagnosis-based to behavior-based screening. What that's going to look like is that in the past, sometimes we've asked questions that have been inequitable. Maybe they've required a counselor or a therapist. And we know that not everyone can afford or has the opportunity to go to a therapist. And often therapists just flat out, they just don't understand what we do and the types of rigors that a student will go through on an Outward Bound course. We're trying to focus more on what coping tools, meaning like what are the positive attributes students come in with for managing adversity and stress. And that will hopefully set them up better for success on course and the entire crew that they're about to work with. And that comes just from knowing that in this past year, 90% of our early departures were for psychosocial reasons. And so if we know that students are coming in with more of those coping mechanisms, fitting in to be the right student for the right course at the right time for them, we're gonna be better off. This will also tie into our next priority, which is really evolving the program and field processes to better align with those behavior-based admissions. So, like I said, we know that 90% of early departures were for psychosocial reasons. More than half the incidents this past year, 55%, dealt with motivational behavior or mental health concerns, so that psychosocial catch-all term. And if we get the right students on the right courses with the right motivation and the right coping tools, and then support the staff in the field, it'll open up all kinds of bandwidth and capacity. Bandwidth to do more, to teach more, to connect more in the field. Bandwidth for CDs and PMs to mentor more, coach more, support field staff more. Bandwidth for logistics to streamline practices. Bandwidth for senior leadership to support programs. All of these aspects help the flywheel of COBS to just spin faster and faster with less and less effort needed to spin it. That's the goal. So ways that we're going to do that, we're going to continue to build and improve resources such as Chapter 5. We worked on this a lot in 2020. We created a lot of diagnosis-based tools, and we want to shift that to behavior-based tools because you don't have to have a diagnosis to have a behavior, and not everybody gets diagnoses for certain things. So if staff are seeing a behavior in the field, they'll have better tools, and we're going to work on that with our mental health advisor. We're really looking to set up proactive and positive cultures on course and create an environment where those things just are more likely to naturally happen. So people who study successful relationships, they don't look at divorces when they're telling people how to have happy and rewarding relationships. They focus on what are the positive characteristics that happen in those happy relationships, and they try and reinforce having those happen more often. That's part of what we're trying to do, is proactively set up students for success, which is going to set up staff for success. And then when those students then take it home, they take that home and they send the positive ripples out into their communities. That's the whole point. And last priority is something that is to work on our wildfire and air quality indicator response plans. So we've got a lot of protocols already, but they're spread out in a lot of places, sometimes with inconsistent practices for courses based on if they're in the Southwest or in the Rocky Mountain program, if they're on base or in the backcountry. And these have historically been handled at the base level, but we have more and more staff working cross-programmatically. We know that course area closures the past 5 years straight, we've had that happen because of wildfires, and we've needed more cross-program collaboration. And we saw that this past year when wildfire in the LaSalle Mountains happened, and we shifted courses over to the Elks with really a lot of great success because of a lot of people coming together and collaborating on that. Clear fact is climate change isn't going away, and we need to make sure that we're on the same page, and we've got contingency plans built for both programs. Next, I wanted to just look at one key indicator for success in teams. So it's this term of psychological safety. Maybe you've been hearing it in ed and leadership trainings, maybe you haven't, but I want to share with everybody, try and get everybody on the same page. So it's a shared belief that the team is safe for interpersonal risk-taking. So another way to say that is and having an environment where you're not tied up in knots about the risk of looking stupid, negative, or obtrusive in the eyes of a colleague or a boss. So what does this look like in practice? You can think of it in whatever realm you work in. You could think of it in the headquarters. You can think of it in the offices on base, with your staff team, with your student team. So it might be people holding back, becoming disengaged, not sharing. They might not be sharing important thoughts. They might not be speaking up with a safety concern. People might be deferring to hierarchy despite the fact that they have experience, that they have knowledge, or that they've got gut instincts that they're feeling. So ways that we can encourage psychological safety are beforehand, making it so that others see you as accessible and approachable. Have an open door, whether you actually have a door or not. Smile, engage with others. Make it sure that they understand why it's so important for them to speak up and why you value their opinion and their thoughts. While you're in the action, proactively invite input, ask questions, acknowledge that you don't know everything, demonstrate humility and vulnerability. After someone shares their thoughts, respond appreciatively. Thank you so much for that clear perspective. That was a great question. I appreciate you double checking us. There's a lot of great resources. If you're into reading, there's a great New York Times Magazine article. If you like podcasts, you can check that podcast. If you like TED Talks, there's one on YouTube. There's actually a lot on YouTube, but this one is particularly excellent. I'll put links to these in the notes down below. So just wanted to give people exposure to this. And lastly, I mentioned this in the last video, but all the data last year, all of our priorities, ultimately all of this stuff comes to us continually needing to learn, and we need to learn from the people who are closest to the work, and that's you. If you have a safety concern that you've noticed over the last year or just your entire time at COBS, and you want to see progress on, I really encourage you to follow this QR code. You'll get to a form. It's one question that you need to fill out and 2 optional questions. It can be anonymous, and ultimately it'll go to myself, the executive director, and someone in the HR department. So we've got multiple people there to make sure that it gets addressed and that the right people are addressing it. We're here to learn, and thank you for helping us to learn. And as you can see, it could be physical concerns, it could be emotional, psychological, it could be equity and inclusion related, it can be any type of safety concern that you have. We thank you and we're very appreciative for you helping out to just increase the safety culture here at COBS. If you got any questions, feel free to reach out. You can reach me at safety@cobs.org or screech@cobs.org. Either one of those works. And I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to being able to have students out in the field soon. In the meantime, I hope you're getting out on some amazing winter adventures. And I hope you're creating some really good connections within your communities. Looking forward to chatting more soon. And thank you very much. See you soon.